Okay, let's do it. The poker X-ray hack that stole 22.5 million. Chat, I would buy everyone a sub. If I had 22.5 million, I would end world hunger.
It started with whispers on an online poker forum called 2+2. One player, under the name Neo, had racked up over $600,000 in just 64 hours. At first, players chalked it up to luck.
No way.
But then the math people showed up. They ran the numbers and realized even with the best luck in the world, these wins weren't statistically possible.
How much did you lose?
I'm probably down somewhere in the range of 70,000.
I love 60
for
minutes.
that particular player.
Something was wrong, and what they uncovered would turn out to be one of the biggest scandals in the history of gambling. But to understand how tens of millions of dollars were won by unknown accounts through suspicious means, we have to rewind to 2003, when an unknown accountant named Chris Moneymaker had turned $86 into $2.5 million in the
Yo, drop it in. No shot. $83 into 2.5 million? Mmm, tasty. That's a big return.
World Series of Poker, because suddenly every couch potato in America thought that they could be next. Online poker exploded overnight as regular folks rushed thinking they could make a fortune from home.
By the way, this is peanuts compared to the gambling industry online now with like stake and rain bet.
But Russ Hamilton saw an opening. Back in '94, he had already won his own World Series with a $1 million payday. Now, he was ready to cash in on the online poker boom, build his own platform. It was a gamble that made Russ insanely wealthy, brought him status and affluence he always dreamed of. But now, this post on 2+2 was becoming a scandal too big to ignore because the players were accusing him.
I'm not trying to make it right, Dan, so we got to get that out of the way.
Russ Hamilton was born in 1948 in Detroit, Michigan. He lived a pretty normal life, but right after graduating from high school, while pursuing an electrical engineering degree, one of his professors would change his life forever, told him that he should try playing poker. This might have been the first professor in history to ever recommend turning to a life of gambling instead of finishing a degree, but Russ took this advice to heart.
Kind of
and he tried it.
But my guy, don't invest your life savings into a degree that you will never use. Start gambling!
And he became absolutely obsessed. He would start reading the old magazine called Gambling Times, became his Bible, and every year they did an article documenting the World Series of Poker. The World Series of Poker is an annual event held yearly since 1969. It's known as the pinnacle of poker events worldwide. If you win that tournament, you're the poker champion of the world.
I wanted to win the World Series of Poker. That was my goal. I kept saying, I want to win that. I would love to win the World Series of Poker.
But first, he knew he had to start small. He played at local underground games around Detroit because gambling was still considered illegal in Michigan at this time. Then, in '84, at 36 years old, Russ decided to pick up his life and make the big move to Sin City. And for his first 10 years, he would consistently enter small tournaments throughout the strip. And while he occasionally made it pretty far, he never actually won one. But despite his lack of winnings, he was still confident, decided to press his luck and buy a $10,000 ticket to the 1994 World Series of Poker main event. The prize was $1 million. And since it was the event's 25th anniversary, the organizers decided to throw in an additional prize for the world champ, the weight in silver.
Wow! Wait, that's expensive.
World Series of Poker. Now, last year the winner won $1 million, but this year
$1 million.
$1 million plus the world title.
Chad, does anybody get like really comfy when they see this kind of like grainy ass like TV, footage?
It
makes me eepy.
Weight in silver.
From Las Vegas, Nevada, this is the
Las Vegas, Nevada
World Series of Poker.
This was Russ's first ever time competing in the World Series of Poker, and he was competing against the best of the best. He managed to make his way through the qualifying rounds all the way to the final table. It was made up of 6 people, all from out of town. Russ was the only local left in the game.
The number 2 seed, weighing in at 330, is Russ Hamilton. He plays almost every day here at the Horseshoe. Russ is from Las Vegas. He's cashed a couple of events this year.
He's a hometowner.
Earnings here at the Horseshoe of $35,525.
The other players at the table were some of the biggest names in poker. Vince Bergio, a senior Poker Hall of Fame member, Al Crooks, a wealthy diamond merchant, Robert Chipburner Turner, John Spadavecchia, and Hugh Vincent,
look at that hairdo!
well known. poker players, while Russ was just some random guy. So for him to make it this far was a complete shock to basically everyone involved, including Russ himself. And then he started to win. Russ started
Even
to knock
I'm
other
shocked.
players out one by one with smart moves and a little bit of luck, all until there were just 2 players remaining,
That's
Hugh
crazy.
Vincent and himself. Hugh had the upper hand, going into heads up with almost 600,000 more chips.
You know this is the 90s because he's allowed to smoke indoors. Look at him. He's such a fucking animal. I love it.
Against all
Wait, does he have a sandwich in his
Hugh
hand?
Vincent and himself. Hugh had the upper hand, going into heads
Oh my god, I think that's a fish fillet. And then he has a cigarette in his other hand. He's like, it's a hot dog?
up with almost
It looks like a sandwich, but you could be right.
600,000 more chips. But against all odds, the
That's how it is in the casinos. I'm aware, but this is like a championship, right? Like, he does not give a shit.
hometown hero making his world
Dude,
championship
that's power.
debut
That's
came out on
aura,
top.
yeah. He's farming. Damn, he beat him! Woo!
$1 million goes to Russ Hamilton from Las Vegas, Nevada.
Can't
He
tell
also
him
gets
30, 80.
competitive
Yeah,
racing
it's a
here
bit,
at the
it's a
World
bit
Series of
grainy.
Poker.
Much to the chagrin of the tournament's organizers, Russ was the heaviest at the table by far. Which means
Wait, what if his big move was to fatten himself up before he wins? Wait, that's so strong.
they had to cough up 43 bars of silver.
Wow.
The locals, on the other hand, were ecstatic.
I'm here with the world champion of the World Series of Poker. Here he is, Russ Hamilton. 9 out of 10 people here were rooting for you.
Unbelievable.
I got a lot of friends here. That always helps.
Everyone in the horseshoe got to
That's
celebrate the
crazy.
victory with Russ. After 10 long years
How'd
of
he
working towards his
win,
goal
chat?
of winning the world championship of poker, he finally did it. It was the best day of his life. But Russ wanted more than $1 million. And now he had the money, and more importantly, the influence to do it.
Mm-hmm.
In the 90s, the world of gambling was changing, and fast, because the World Wide Web had been invented and taken off, and people want to gamble in their underwear from the comfort of their home. Except no one had really invented a way to do that yet. But Russ realized that it was coming, and he wanted to be the one on top of it. And in a crazy coincidence, the same year that Russ won the World Championship, Antigua and Barbuda passed the Free Trade and Processing Act. This allowed businesses to be licensed to open online casinos. This was immaculate timing, because gambling online was illegal in most places. In fact, it was illegal in literally every state in the US until 2012. This meant that no online casino could be opened or operated in America.
Yep, and they all have to be offshore in, like, I don't know, fucking Romania or, what's that other really famous place? Monaco. Yeah, there's a bunch of places where they do it.
Under any circumstance.
Thanks,
So
oh
instead
bomb
of breaking
bomb.
the law, savvy business
Damn
owners
you.
decided to start their companies in Antigua and Barbuda to avoid jail time but still make some
Antigua,
major bank.
Barbuda,
Of course, Americans could still
Barbados.
access these websites, but the US couldn't enforce their strict anti-gambling laws on offshore providers. They had no
Yeah, and you can just VPN too. That's what a lot of gambler streamers do. If they live in, like, Texas where it's banned, they just VPN around it.
jurisdiction there. Of course,
Yeah.
a side effect of that is that these websites were
Obviously, they
truly
can't
the Wild
enforce it, but
West.
still.
Because unlike physical casinos stateside,
Mm-hmm.
run under strict rules and regulations to make sure that games are fair, well, as fair as they're supposed to be, no one was really watching or checking online casinos in the same way. And so the Conaway Gaming Commission was established in 1996 in hopes of regulating the electronic gambling scene. And with this new commission, people started to trust online gambling a little bit more, and it slowly began to grow
That's
a
not
huge
good.
following. Gee whiz, I wish I had a large following. Clicking that subscribe button actually helps me unlock a higher tier of YouTube support, so thank you. One of the largest companies making the software gambling websites use was called iLogic, founded by Greg Pearson and John Carl. The two originally founded the company to make software for MMOs, but seemed like
Fruitscape! They have a gambling problem too.
gambling was just a little bit more profitable. Greg Pearson was
wants
actually
to
friends
stake?
with the one and
Chat?
only Russ Hamilton. And Russ knew that online gambling was the future, and he wanted in on it. So him and Greg founded a
Yes.
website on March 1st,
Ultimate
2001
Bet.
using iLogic software under the name Ultimate Bet.
Ooh.
Greg had all the technical knowledge.
All roads lead to RuneScape. Chat, mark my words.
He knew the software and the tech side of things. Russ, on the
Gamba
other
came
hand,
from
was like the
RuneScape.
liaison to the poker community. He knew everyone and everyone knew him. The two of them were the perfect team. Because of Russ's reputation and the website's reliability, Ultimate Bet blew up. It became one of the biggest online gambling websites in the whole world. Its name was everywhere's. They sponsored a TV show. They hosted annual live tournaments.
They have
And
so
most
much money.
importantly, Russ got fellow professional poker players to act as spokespeople for the company. People like Phil Hellmuth, Annie Duke, and Tiffany Michelle, some of the most influential names in poker. The website grew to millions of members and was completely unstoppable.
If you're a female poker player, are you supposed to like cover up so you can't distract the male participants? Is that a rule, I wonder? Like, you're not allowed to like wear low-cut shirts and like have nice titties?
People loved the
That's what I would do.
convenience of it. If you wanted to get in,
What do you have there? It's fair game. You think so? Wait, no, you can't do that. You can't like pull down your pants. No, men can't pull down their pants in front of a woman. That's not a legal strat. If you get distracted by that, it's a skill issue. Yeah, but then you have to cover them all up. I'm all for equality, chat.
on the action, you didn't have to move to Sin City like Russ did. Instead, you could play poker from the convenience of your own house. Not to mention, since it was online, the tables were always full. You could play literally anything you wanted. It was truly groundbreaking for the people who have been
Let's go gambling!
spending their time getting all dressed up
Rain
and driving
bet.
to one of the few legal casinos that their state had.
Gamble
But if they
time.
knew what was happening behind the scenes, they probably would have never gambled online again. In June 2003, the Ultimate Bet website had its first breach in security,
Oh,
and
no.
unauthorized software was
Credit
installed onto
cards.
the Ultimate Bet servers. This software enabled the hacker to view whole cards in any game happening on the website in live time. If you've ever played poker, you know how bad that is. It's a guarantee
That's
to be
very
able to print
bad.
money. Let me explain. Let's say you decided to buy into a game of Texas Hold'em at the casino.
Just
You sit
bet
down
high.
and the dealer is quick to give you your cards. He slides 2 cards face down right across the table. These are the whole cards. When you look at them, he can't show any emotion, good or bad, because any face movement could give away what cards you have to the rest of the table.
why it's
If
called
the
a
other
poker
players
face.
are confident that you have a bad hand, they might go all in. But if they think you have some of the best cards in the game, they might decide to sit this round out, meaning that there's less chips in the pot when you win. These cards are what makes poker a game
bluffing.
of chance. You can make
And bluffing too.
educated guesses on other players' cards based on how they're playing, but at the end of the day, you have no idea what cards are in their hand, unless you have a special ability to magically see their cards. Of course, you can't really do that in real life, but online, now it was a completely different story, because the special software that was uploaded was accessible by 2 accounts, Auditmaster 1 and Auditmaster 2. It seems like Auditmaster 2 was the only one that was ever actually used, but this account couldn't actually play in games. It was just able to spectate and gather information on what players in the
So
game
you just
had.
tell
So
someone
a second
that you're
account,
cheating,
a
you're
normal player
hacking.
account, was used to join the game and actually play. Whoever had committed this hack basically had 2 browser tabs open, right? One watching the game with full access to it, and the other, they looked like a normal player in the game. All the while, they knew exactly what the other players had in their hands.
So you can just
essentially
bet.
guaranteeing a win while stealing
Woo!
everyone's money in the process. And
Fleeced!
because of how the software worked, absolutely nobody else could tell that they were cheating. The other players in the hacked games simply thought the player using the software was lucky. The problem is, there's a point where just being lucky becomes statistically impossible. Speaking of those nasty hackers, today's sponsor
See, you gotta be a dumbass. You can't be obvious about it. If you find an exploit, you gotta be at least subtle about it. At least initially. And then when you start suspecting that they're onto you, then you go all out.
Surfshark
ball
VPN
out.
helps keep you safe from them. Whether you like playing online card games, browsing the web, or streaming your favorite shows, it's more important than ever to have a way to protect yourself online. Surfshark is a fast and easy to use VPN that encrypts your internet connection, keeping your data safe and private from hackers, advertisers, and even your own internet service provider, ensuring that you never show your cards to anyone. With Surfshark, you can browse the internet with confidence, knowing that your passwords and personal information are secure, even on public Wi-Fi networks. But that's not all. Have you ever been frustrated that certain TV shows, and movies are only available in other countries? Well, if you encounter that, just boot
No,
up
I pirate.
Surfshark,
I mean, what?
switch your country, and start streaming it freely. And the best part about Surfshark is that it's easy
Yeah.
to install on all
Yeah.
of your devices. So next time you're at the airport on their sketchy public Wi-Fi, you can use Surfshark on your phone. Plus all the features that keep you safe everywhere, like Clean Web, which blocks ads, trackers, and malware. Plus, with Surfshark's Alert ID protection, you get a notification if your email
Alert.
has been compromised in a breach, which is a great extra layer of security. But don't take my word for it. The best way to see if Surfshark is right for you is to try it out risk-free.
Surfart.
Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, giving you plenty of time to test it
Yeah.
out. So go to surfshark.com/crumb or use code crumb at checkout to get my exclusive deal. 4 extra
Anyone
months of
that uses
Surfshark VPN
Surfshark
for
here?
free. That's an amazing deal by an amazing company. Thank you, Surfshark.
Thank you, Surfshark.
For 5 whole years, people with access to the Audit Master 2 account were able to steal random gamblers' money to their heart's content, and nobody was the wiser. But in 2007, karma started to catch up with them.
Uh-oh.
Because that September, people on the 2+2 poker forums started to become suspicious of another
You never want to mess with other people's fucking money, man. People will put it together, bro.
popular gambling website called Absolute Poker. Absolute Poker was
Absolute
founded just
Cinema.
a few years after Ultimate Bet in 2003 by a group of college kids, and by 2007 it had also grown to be one of the biggest poker websites in the world alongside Ultimate Bet. In fact, so many people were using these poker sites that forums started to crop up dedicated to the online poker playing community. One of these being
That's
2+2,
crazy
which is
to
actually
me.
still active today. These guys take poker seriously. It's not just a game to
What the hell? Wait, what? What is going on with Twitch? Don't run a live stream if you can't take criticism. Is this person like mad over streaming Gamba on Twitch? Did I just see that?
poker seriously. It's not just a game to them, it's a way of life. And
No
in September
way. That's
2007, a
crazy.
few threads started to pop up reporting some suspicious behavior from a few accounts on Absolute Poker. Accounts with weird histories that never made much sense and abnormally high win rates. It was truly impossible for anyone to win this much and this often. So the good people of 2+2 decided to bring their
If people can track how much you win, why don't you just make like new accounts over and over or something? Or like hack people's accounts and then so that you don't get tracked so easily.
accusations to higher authorities. They reported the website to the Conaway Gaming Commission, and less than a month later, they started an investigation into Absolute Poker. And they found 7 accounts that were cheating. All these accounts were also guilty of using cheats to see other players' cards.
It's
In
better
just 6
security
weeks of
than
having
Twitch
access to
security,
these cheats,
apparently.
they managed to steal $1.6 million from unknowing players. Poker players on the online forums were completely outraged. They couldn't believe that one of their beloved websites was riddled with scammers, and they were determined to never let this happen again. Following this event, players started to become more skeptical of online gambling. They started to check account histories, scour data, and do absolutely everything they could to find cheaters. And sure enough, attention
Statistically.
shifted from Absolute Poker to none other than Ultimate Bet. And the people on the forums all started to report one strange account on Ultimate Bet under the name Neo. Similar to the
Neo
exposed
Neo.
players on Absolute Poker, his win rate was
Oink, oink.
completely impossible. So the poker players decided to investigate this player a little further. They used a program called Poker Tracker to take a deep dive into Neo's history.
Oh my god, they created an algorithm and you could just input people's fucking profiles and to see how low of a fucking rate it is. And how much they're winning. That's crazy. Dude, I'm telling you, gamblers are a different speed, man.
This
This is
program
some
was made to
weaponized
store historical
autism,
data
for
from
sure.
poker websites and create a database of player history and statistics. Any player could
my
use it to
God.
track their own or someone else's profits, wins, losses, hands played, and so much more. It was a great tool to check out your own stats and see if you're improving your skills over time. But
Yep.
it was an even better tool to make sure that everyone else is playing fairly. So the amateur investigators looked at the play history of Neo, and it was almost like the player was psychic. They never made the wrong play. Check it out. These scatter
How would you not make mistakes? I just feel like these people are so stupid. They get so emboldened and they get high on the fact that like nobody's catching them that they don't care anymore.
show average player win rates for both Absolute Poker and Ultimate Bet. See that big clump in the middle? That's about where a normal player on the website should be scoring. They win some, they lose some, but that's the fun part. Then look at the bright color points all the way to the right of the 0 line. Yeah, that's not supposed to happen. All of this new data coming out on the forums made it clear that some sort of cheating was happening on Ultimate Bet, but everyone had one question: who was behind it? By January 2008, the players were kicking up too much noise, so the Conaway Gaming Commission, remember, these are the regulators responsible for licensing Ultimate Bet, announced that it was opening a formal investigation into the allegations of cheating. Inside Ultimate Bet, panic set in. Senior management knew what the commission might find, so they scrambled to conduct their own internal review first. When their version of events went public, it sounded neat and contained. The cheating, they claimed, had just been a little bit of unfair play between March 2006 and December 2007, tied to 6 accounts with
we investigated ourselves and we found nothing wrong.
18 different screen names.
It's okay.
The cause, they said, was unauthorized software code slipped in years earlier by a former consultant before the current ownership even took over, and they made a point of stressing that no one in current management was involved. But to the sleuths that called them out in the first place, this just seemed like damage control. It didn't help that to coincide, Ultimate Bet was pivoting hard. They were promoting more live poker events than ever, signing more well-known pros, and touting about their improved security. It seemed like it was all an effort to calm the player base. And their hunch was right, because behind the scenes, the Conaway Gaming Commission was building a very different picture. They pulled server logs going back to nearly the inception, traced IP
So they're trying to not make people panic. I mean, okay, I can see that.
addresses and matched login locations. They found that many of the accounts didn't just belong to the same people. They were actively rotated between different usernames, mid-cheat, and a half-baked attempt to mask the patterns players had now picked up on. This just pointed to either the same person using multiple accounts at the same time, because this was happening in the same game session, or co-conspirators operating together. And the unauthorized code, as Ultimate Bet put it, that turned out to be an internal audit tool, later nicknamed God Mode, built by the iGaming
Why do you have that?
developers in 2003 for software testing and tournament oversight. That wasn't slipped in by a hacker. As you know, it allowed the user to see every player's hole cards in real time. In theory, it should have been only accessible to certain back-end testers. They found that back when it was originally implemented, people inside the company actually argue that it should be removed entirely before the launch because of the obvious potential for abuse. But others, higher up in the company, had argued to keep it in for security and troubleshooting, claiming it would be restricted to certain test accounts. The internal debate was never settled. The tool was left in the live system, and according to the Conaway Gaming Commission, it wasn't removed until February 2008, weeks after they opened their investigation into Ultimate Bet. It was available to the person with the right permissions this entire time. They also noted that the tool was never documented for regulators when Ultimate Bet applied for its license, meaning it wasn't officially approved or monitored. But the question now was, who had been abusing it? The commission first looked at the locations of the accounts that had been logged in. They found two main places: Russ Hamilton's home, Las Vegas, and Aruba during Ultimate Bet sponsored events. Come September 11, 2009,
man?
the Conaway Gaming
I thought there was gonna be something
2009.
I thought it was gonna be the other September 11th.
The Conaway Gaming Commission finally released the report, and their findings were shocking. All the evidence led back to one man, the 1994 Poker World Champion and co-founder of the website, none other than Russ Hamilton. The commission found 23 accounts under 117 different usernames, all involved with the fraud. Nearly all of them were accessed from IP addresses connected to Hamilton's known locations, but not all of them. There was a few co-conspirators, but those were going to take a little time. But they were naming Russ as the main orchestrator. He had been the one that had been cheating his peers.
But you won $1 million. Was that not enough for you? Damn, greed trumps everything, I swear.
Millions of dollars for years on end, and the scope was far larger than Ultimate Bet had admitted. The Conaway Gaming Commission found that the God Mode exploitation began in June 2003 and continued into December 2007, when forum posts by players first exposed the suspicious activity. There was an estimate that $22 million had to be refunded to the players affected by the cheating. This was the largest reimbursement in the entire history of gambling, online or in person. On top of that, Ultimate Bet had to pay a $1.5 $1.5 million fine to cover the cost of the commission's investigation. Ultimate Bet
How
now
much
had
were they
two big
making,
problems.
though?
Number one, they wanted to fix their reputation because running a massive poker website is extremely profitable, and they couldn't
Yeah.
have people afraid to play on their website. Number two, Russ
Is this
Hamilton.
still
In the court
around?
of public opinion, he still wasn't totally guilty. It's not like he was legally charged with anything. It's not like Ultimate Bet had ever actually named him. It was just the Conaway Gaming Commission pointing their finger. And more importantly, they had pointed their finger to some other individuals in that report, and those who lost money, millions of dollars, wanted answers. They wanted to get to the bottom of exactly what happened, and they wanted to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Cards on the table.
Under pressure,
I know how much stake would refund in a similar situation. In order to keep up public appearances and also to satiate the gambling addicts that want to keep gambling, I think they would pay it out. Again, I kind of want to look it up. Ultimate bet income 2009. How much were they making? They made $215 million. So yeah, that wasn't exactly not a lot of money to pay out, huh? Yeah, it's a drop in the bucket. Remember, I remember covering a story about MapleStory basically cheating out their player base by rigging the odds for like upgrading items and whatnot. And then the FCC or whatever it is that like controls, you know, and fines you for doing bad things. It was like a fine of $2 million, but then you look at how much money they made. It was like $800 million, and you're like, oh, no wonder you just like pay that much money to like make them stop.
Refunds trickled out in waves to victims, but all attempts to rebuild trust were proving not so fruitful because public wasn't
Still
just
pretty
going to
big.
forgive.
No, I agree,
And
but
while
I'm
the
just
Conaway
saying,
Gaming
it's kind
Commission's
of
report
not
labeled
that
Russ
big a deal.
Hamilton as the face
fine is $1
behind
million.
this big scandal, it also said that law enforcement received from them a list of 31 people tied at varying levels to the cheating and the money flows, but they left it at that. The
Wow.
names weren't made public. Of course, the poker sleuths went nuts. They started doing some digging, and they were able to figure out some of the other individuals involved.
The
The
gamblers.
first of which was Ultimate Bet's former
fuck with
fraud
gamblers,
manager,
man.
Carolyn
They're crazy.
Hike, who oversaw the creation of secret accounts to be used in the scheme. They also flagged Bonnie Linehouse, a longtime friend and business associate of Russ, as a fixer, like someone who moves funds around. But the real
Yes.
person that
The
the poker
middle
sleuths
woman.
wanted to unmask was Neo, the secret account that was so obviously cheating that it helped topple the entire scheme. When they finally made the connection, they couldn't believe it. Wasn't another veteran poker player, wasn't a money-hungry executive. It was actually a 13-year-old boy named
Let him keep it. No, I'm kidding. What?
Haim Bajayo, allegedly the nephew of one of
Haim
Russ's close friends. He
Haim
definitely wasn't even old
Bajayo.
enough to make the account on his own, but a special account was set up for him by Carolyn, likely at the
Wait, they used a kid to like... Dude, this entire family's fucked. They got this kid into gambling to get more money out of him. Nah, let him keep it. No, he's related to them.
quest of
Nah,
Russ.
fuck 'em.
And as all of this information was trickling out,
Why'd
Ultimate
they
Bet
use a
just kept getting
kid?
kicked.
Yeah, not
over
criminally
and over.
liable.
It's because
Yeah, it's so
spokespeople Phil
bad.
Hellmuth and Annie Duke cut all
He's
ties
13.
in December of 2010. And when Ultimate Bet was asked about its future,
so
they just
scummy,
promised
man.
big, mind-blowing projects, huge innovations, new talent, everything that seemed too good to
Wow,
be true.
dude.
People expected this was all bravado. The website would flop, but they didn't
Nope.
quite expect it to go out the way that it did, because just a year later, on April 15th, 2011, the U.S. Department of Justice seized the website. Players dubbed it Black Friday. The government was able to do this because of a U.S. federal criminal case, United States versus Scheinberg. But surprisingly,
that?
this actually had absolutely nothing to do with the insane fraud that had been happening behind the scenes.
What?
Instead, it had to
Wasn't
do with a
that?
special act, the Unlawful Internet Gambling Enforcement Act, which made it illegal for banks to accept any transaction related to online gambling. This
And then it probably died and came back when crypto became a thing. Oh my god.
This act was actually passed in 2006, but it took till June 2010
Yeah, you
to
can't
come
use
into
real
full
money
effect. But the
to
poker
gamble
sites had
with.
kept operating because they were arguing in federal court that poker was a game of skill, inherently different from other types of gambling. But now, the federal courts had finally decided that that wasn't good enough of an excuse. So Ultimate Bet was officially shut down, along with a handful of other poker websites. But even though the website literally didn't exist anymore, people were still talking about it because Russ Hamilton and friends still hadn't been charged for the super user fraud. And perhaps a little unlucky for Russ, one of those people still
got away
talking
with
was
it?
his former technology assistant, Travis McCarr. In May 2013, Travis decided to drop a collection of files and recordings onto his own personal website. These files included completely damning evidence about everyone involved in the cheating scandal. One of the most damning being a 5-hour phone call between Russ Hamilton and
5
Greg
hours.
Pearson, the co-founder and
Blabbermouth.
CEO. The craziest thing is, Russ is the one who recorded this himself, saved it on his computer, which was a really dumb thing to do considering what he would go on to say in the call. First,
Maybe he was using it to blackmail? I feel like it's so dumb to record your own crimes. Even if it's like to record and then use against someone else that's doing the crime with you. Nah, that's dumb as fuck.
Russ admits to knowingly stealing the money. Not only that, but he doesn't feel the need to correct the situation.
I feel, and I did take this
What a
money, and
dumbass.
I'm not trying to make it right, Dan, so we got to get that out of the way real quick, okay?
Then another executive or lawyer, it's not quite clear, on this call tries to make an excuse, saying that this was actually sanctioned in the early days, that the stealing was sanctioned when the company was in trouble.
A lot of this money, Dan, on things for people out there.
I mean, you helped a lot of people. And, frankly, I think if you go back far enough, suspicions as to what was sanctioned, what wasn't, is when the company was in real bad shape.
Finally, they even imply that their spokesperson and poker darling, Annie Duke, was a regular God mode user.
Because Annie Duke used it on a 15-minute delay quite a few times.
What?
This call also implies
You
that
just
the
admit
$22
to
million number released by the Conaway Gaming Commission was probably way off. Some people estimate that the real amount scammed was somewhere over 50 million. For the poker sleuths, with all of this out there, they thought surely something could be done to hold these people accountable, right?
Yo, thank you for the raid! Спасибо большое! Thank you so much, Yuka-san! Thank you! Приветик, мы смотрим видос на покер-плееров. Здрасте.
With mountains of evidence tying Russ Hamilton and his cronies at Ultimate Bet to the scam, the poker community expected the kind of ending fit for a movie. FBI raids, handcuffs, justice. But that ending never came. No one was ever charged. So why? It's because
corruption.
Ultimate Bet wasn't registered in the United States. It was all offshore.
Oh, right! I completely forgot at the start. They were registered in Barbados or whatever.
All the US had on them was the bank issue that they shut them down for, not the cheating itself. They maybe didn't have jurisdiction there. Like, I'm not totally convinced though. You'd think this would be the smoking gun, but still no indictments. No part of government was
no extraditions,
able to
no
or
nothing.
willing to actually hold any of them accountable. And so the company insiders, the CEO Russ, they all just picked up and moved on. Many of them denying any involvement in the scheme to this day. And as for Russ, he's basically vanished from public life. Has been completely shunned from the poker world. I guess in the end, Russ and his co-conspirators didn't just rob people of money, they robbed the spirit of poker itself.
I mean, it's still gambling at the end of the day, chat. Chat! Gamblers never win! Losers lose! Go check out the video. I mean, again, there's still gambling on any website. Twitch, Kick. I think if I remember correctly, there's some streamers that get offers in the millions and millions of dollars to, like, stream gambling.